Hello, fiber friends. Welcome to another episode of the Knit, Knot, and Weave podcast. My name is Dorothy, and I am coming to you from Columbia, Maryland, which is approximately halfway between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. This is my little corner of YouTube where I journal my fiber adventures. It's mostly knitting and crocheting, some weaving, some yarn dyeing, possibly spinning one day, but who knows? I'm trying to limit my extracurricular activities. Today I have four finished objects, one updated finished object, and three works in progresses that I am hoping to get finished by the end of this month. So if this sounds like something you are interested in, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as it really helps my channel. Grab yourself a cup of something. I have a cup of tea and I've got my water with me here today. And grab your knitting or your crocheting and let's get started. Hello again. So today is Saturday, November 18th. Again, my name is Dorothy. You can find me on Instagram as Knit, Knot, and Weave, and you can find me on Ravelry as Philia. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm always appreciative of those of you that spend time with me. And if you are new, I hope you find this podcast interesting, and I hope it helps you in whatever way it does. If not, I hope I at least entertain you. So I have a cup of tea with me today, and I have some water. I'm trying a new tea today. I don't remember the name of the company that I bought the tea from, but this tea is turmeric infused tea, which is supposed to help with internal inflammation. And I'm trying this in hopes that it will alleviate some of the inflammation that I have in my knees, which really can be bothersome and tends to get worse in the wintertime with the cold. So I'm hoping that, after I get the turmeric in my system, that I'll be able to work out better and build up the muscles in my legs that I need to support my knees. So I had meant to podcast last weekend to stay on my 2-week schedule. Unfortunately, I was not feeling well. I had some sort of stomach bug or stomach issue, and I didn't feel up to podcasting. Everything I ate I felt like it was sitting right up here, and it just was not a good weekend. So I'm here today, and I will catch you up. So let's see, what have I been doing over the last couple of weeks? So aside from obviously working, my girlfriend Gabby runs her own knitting club in Baltimore, and she organized a knitting event at one of our local yarn shops called Knit Locally. And we went on a Sunday about 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 Sundays ago or 3? I don't remember. But it was a lot of fun. There was about 10 of us that attended, 10 or 12. And Knit Locally is run by a lovely woman called Peggy. We've been to her shop many times on our retreats, and it's a lot of fun. She has a large selection of Malabrigo. Some of the more, I don't want to say, some of the more unique bases of Malabrigo, it seems like. And she has a lot of indie dyers as well. So it's a lot of fun going to her shop, and her shop is very cutely decorated and stuff like that. So that was a wonderful, wonderful Restless Sunday event. I also organized a kind of happy hour for my Club 39 folks. That's the gym that I attend, 39-minute workout. And every once in a while, I try to just get us all together outside the club to just hang out and, build camaraderie and continue with the friends and family sort of atmosphere that the club makes. It was fun. I'd say about 10 or 12 of us went. Next weekend, no, not next weekend. In 2 weeks, we will be having a get together at the actual club, because there was a competition, and my 445 class is the one that won the competition. So we'll be having drinks and dinner at the club provided by the trainers and owners. So that's going to be fun. I have another event organized for mid-December. I live right near Meriwether Post Pavilion, and every winter they put on a Symphony of Lights, which is all the Christmas light decorations and stuff. And last year they did a Lit at the Light night event. This year they're doing two. So I put it out there to see how many folks would be interested, and it looks like we've got a good crowd. Probably 15 to 20 folks are going to be meeting there, and we're going to be going to Lit at the Lights. And what that is the organizers for the Symphony of Lights have gotten together with local breweries, local wineries, probably some local bars and pubs, and they're going to be stands. And as you walk through to visit, or not visit, but as you walk through to enjoy the Christmas lights and the festivities they have, you'll be able to have some tastings for whatever vendors have decided to do it. So that should be a lot of fun. And what else can I tell you guys? Oh, I started a dyeing class. I'm super excited. In my dyeing adventures, I have watched Rebecca from Chem Knits on YouTube, and I've learned a lot from her in regards to dyeing and mixing and all that kind of stuff. I've watched several of Taylor from Wool Needles Hands podcasts when she used to share some of her dyeing adventures. And there was somebody else, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of dyers that share how to do it. Oh, and Frost Yarns, that was the other one. I've watched several of her videos. But there's not a whole lot of technique dyeing videos out there to watch. So you sort of have to, it's trial and error on your own, a lot of it. A lot of it is probably, what do you call it? Networking with other dyers and building friendships and sharing ideas and stuff like that. And I heard of Alana's class through Kevin from Needles at the Ready. He took the class and he highly recommends it. And what this class is hopefully going to help me do is, if I have a picture of something and I really like the colors in the picture, it's going to help me to match my dyes to the colors that are in the pictures. So I'm super excited about that. I am hoping to do some of the assignments this upcoming week when I have off for Thanksgiving, because it's kind of hard for me to dye on a weeknight when I have to clean everything up, because you don't want to leave any dye stuff around your kitchen, and I have to go to work the next morning. So I'm hoping to get some of the assignments done over Thanksgiving break, and then hopefully get a few more done over the Christmas break. And what's nice is that she sent us this lovely toolkit which I think is super nice. And inside is the book that she wrote on what she calls the class Color Alchemy. It's how to mix the colors. She gave us, she gave us a little magic wand. We each have a letter. So we have a magic wand in here. And I'm not gonna take everything out to share right now, but in here are just a few mini skeins. We had to purchase our own mini skeins to take the class, but she did share a few mini skeins with us of different bases, sparkle, wool, non-wool, washable wool, Donegal wool. She also put together some samples of fiber, which I'm looking forward to playing with fiber dyeing. And I'm super excited to get to learn all this stuff. So the first thing I'm going to talk about as we get into the crafting portion of this podcast is what I'm wearing. This is the very first sweater I made myself. It was knit top down. There's no pattern for this. I know, I'm crazy. So a woman that was in my knitting group sort of put together a recipe, and I just sort of followed her suggestions. So here it is. It is knit. This was knit back in 2001. I used Brook Farms Ellie, which is a wool and silk 50-50 blend. I started here to make a little dip, and then I used like a little feather and fan all around the neckline. And then it's a simple raglan shaping. I did do bust darts, and then down at the bottom I did do the same feather and fan down at the bottom. And you can see that this was one of their slubby style yarns. So unfortunately, Brook Farms is no longer dyeing. They retired, 2 or 3 years ago now. Maybe they retired pre-COVID. I think they retired pre-COVID because the only way I got their yarn was when they would come to Maryland Sheep and Wool, because they were a Texas-based company. You could have ordered it online, but I always like to see the colors that I'm buying. So yeah, this was the very first sweater I knit myself. First up, I have a Musselboro hat by Ysolda Teague. And the yarn that I used is from Fiber Hustle. It was their fingering base. It's a 75-25. And this was an Ook colorway. It's like a Soul Man. And I have a nice portion of it left over, so that will probably make a stripe in my granny stripe blanket. And then if there's anything left over, it will probably go into my jelly roll blanket. But I love how the colors mixed in here. I think that portion right there, that portion right here is just my favorite. I did something different. I've done many Musselbergs lately, but I did halfway, I put in a row of yarn overs and knit two togethers. And when I fold it in half, I get the nice picot edge, which I thought was a neat thing. And so when you fold it up, you have that nice picot edge at the top. So this was fun. This is definitely, I'm definitely keeping this Musselburgh because I love the colors in this one. So this one was knit on 2.75 millimeter needles. So it was a pretty tight gauge and I like it. It fits lovely. I put it on right now, but I have a clip in my hair. Okay. So here it is. I like it. Perfect size. Covers my ears. Love the colors. Next up is the School Run Headband by Laura Penrose. The pattern was designed for DK weight yarn. I had some funky fingering weight leftovers and some mohair from Miss Babs, and I thought I would just put them together. And so I made this pattern, except I was not paying attention when I sewed it together here. And so in order to get the right look, for the knot so that you don't see the sewn edge, I'm now exposing the seam that I had to knit. So technically this is the side that should have been out, but then you see the sewing up of the two edges. So since this is for me, I don't care. And this will be nice and warm for the winter because it's 2 layers over my ears, and I'm sure the mohair will be nice and warm as well. So this will be neat. This will be great for when I do walks and stuff. So this is a paid for pattern, so I can't share too much. I think it was about $6. I don't remember. But I am going to be making another one. This is just slightly too big, and it's probably because the it really wasn't made with DK weight. So anyway, this was knit on a 4 millimeter needle. It's super nice and soft. So the yarn I used was Shibui Knit Socks, which is 100% superwash merino. And it was in the, oh boy, the colorway Roppongi, Roppangi. And then the mohair was Miss Babs Moon Glow, which was the Maryland Sheep and Wool 2021 colorway. And it went really, the two colors went nicely together. So I'm pleased with that. And then next up are 2 Christmas gifts. So in my, not my last episode, because the last episode was blankets, but in the episode before, I had shared that I had gotten Aquila from the Lefty Knitter podcast crank me up some sock tubes in Christmas yarns that I had purchased from Hobby, Hobbi. I had planned to make socks for my whole family, except when I sprained my wrist back in April, that put a real damper on my Christmas knitting because I started early this year. So here's the first pair, and these are for my father. I am hoping I got the spacing right. So that's his foot, and that's the leg, and I don't know why it looks so short, but it does. But my dad's got big feet. Maybe that's why it looks short. So that's my dad's pair. And I have not washed them yet, but I used the Hobie socks, the Christmas wool, which is Hello, nurse. So it's a 75 wool, 25% nylon, and it's 459 yards in one of their skeins. So the cranked up, she cranked these. I asked her to crank these on 72 cylinder for my dad, for all the men in my family. So I had one, two, three tubes cranked up at 72 stitches. And then I did all the heels, toes, and cuffs in a solid opal yarn. So I have red and green. So these I did in red. And then I have a pair for my brother-in-law, Mark, in a different colorway. Again, heels, toes, and cuffs were done with opal. Of course, afterthought heels, because you're coming from a yarn tube. This is the first time I have done socks from a yarn tube. It was very difficult. I shouldn't say it was difficult. It was not as easy as I thought it would be. Only in regards to getting the measurements right, picking up the stitches correctly so that the heels, let me show you, because you sort of have to line up so that the sides match, so that your toe and your heel is facing the same way, because otherwise, if you're not careful, it could have twisted weirdly. I don't know what I'm saying. But so there we have it. Another pair done. And again, this was Hobie sock yarn. This was color number 4, and this one is color number 5. I think one is called Prancer and one was called Dancer. I'm not positive. But anyway, it came in a package, 3 different colorways per package. I bought 2 packages, and then I bought 2 of their sparkle bases to make for my little nieces. I thought they'd find those fun. And then my last finished objects are basically just some projects that I updated. So in my last, no, not my last episode, because that was blankets, the episode before, I had shared that I had made a whole bunch of these cable headbands, and I was talking about trying to figure out how to line them, because they felt, even though they're cabled, they felt like they wouldn't keep the ears warm if somebody's taking a walk. So what I did was I picked up and knit a lining. Now this one I picked up after I had already closed it off. And from here, you could see that there was a nice pickup edge on both sides. So what I did is I went ahead and picked up on one side, and for this one, I had just knitted all the way around. I closed it up, didn't even think about it, and then knit all the way up until it sort of laid and connected to the pickup line that was available at the top. And what I noticed is, even though I picked up, and there should have been, the same number of stitches on the pickup and the cast off, that somehow it got a little crooked here at the end. I'm not sure how that happened, but it did. So the next time I did it, where am I? This again was, I had picked up, most of these were already sewn up into the circular way. They were already sewn up circularly. So this time, you could see where I left it open. I just picked up all the way down and around, and instead of connecting it, I just knit back and forth until it reached the top. And then I did basically a 3-needle bind off at the top. I left that open. I didn't see any need to really have to close it. I don't think it's going to do any different because the seam is basically going to go in the back of your head anyway. And so that's how I did all the rest of them. And it does make them a little bit definitely warmer, and it feels cozier. Here's one I made with Rios, some leftover Rios, and again, some leftover Miss Babs Moon Glow. That's her mohair base. And then the lining, I just didn't add the mohair. I just did the Rios. So this one I may keep for myself too. But I made a bunch of these. I was thinking of if my gym does a Christmas event, a Christmas gathering of some sort. I made a whole bunch of these. I was just going to sort of put them out if anybody wanted to pick one up. And I was going to bring some hats too, because, you know, sometimes you just need quick knits and you don't have people to give them for. And I thought this was a neat way to share my crafting. Now, on to the fun stuff, the works in progresses. So those of you that have been watching the podcast for a while know that I have been knitting Christmas sweaters for my 2 youngest nieces this year. And I started Priya's sweater quite a while ago, and I showed it 2 episodes ago that even though I followed, it's the Bean and Olive pattern by Andrea Mowry, and even though my niece is 8, and I followed the 8 to 10 pattern, and I'm pretty sure I got gauge, my little stinker of a niece grew, and so this would not fit her anymore. So instead of taking it apart, I just finished it off, and I'm going to give it to my cousin's little girl, Ella. And so this one's going to go to Ella. And then I picked up some Malabrigo Rios in purple, because purple is my niece's favorite color. And it's the Purple Mystery colorway in Rios. And so I thought I would start the 8 to 10 on a worsted weight, and it would be a little bit larger, and it would fit her. So I had managed to get through the whole color work, and then I was at my sister's house 2 weekends ago. My older sister that lives here, my sister Mary. And after dinner, I don't even remember what we were watching, but as I said, these are Christmas gifts. I wanted to try and get everything done by the end of November so that December I can just work on what I want to work on. And I'm knitting it, and she's looking at it, and she goes, who are you making that for? And I said, Priya. She goes, that's not going to fit Priya. I'm like, shit, are you serious? So I took another look at it. I laid it out, and it was like exactly 31 inches around. And my niece, the last time I measured her, was 31 inches around. So I was ready to cry because I had, like I said, I had done all the way up to here. I had all the color work done. I was getting ready to split for the sleeves. So then I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do now? I'm following, I went up a yarn size because the pattern is written for DK. I went up a needle size. It's still not working right. Lo and behold, I found out that Andrea Mowry has a Bean and Olive for grown-ups. So I had to buy another pattern. And so now I am following the Bean and Olive for grown-ups. Because my little stinker of an 8-year-old niece is growing too fast. So I am following the measurements for a 35.5-inch chest. And I'm still using the Rios and the size 8, so it might be a little bit bigger on her than anticipated. But at this point, she can grow into it now. So again, I've just separated for the sleeves. I have all the color work done. I will probably know this pattern by heart by the time I finish it, because let's see, I did that one twice because I started on the 6 to 8 pattern, and when I got to a certain point it looked too small to me, so I said, all right, well, I'll just go up and make the 8 to 10, and then it still came out too small. And then I started this one, and my sister Mary pointed out that that's not going to fit her, so I took it apart, got the grown-up one, and went up a size and knitted a little bit bigger. So 4 times now I've done this color work chart. And again, this is the color for the color work. It was leftover yarn from another weaving project that I had done. It was Ulan's Olann, so Ulan Irish Merino hand dyed, and then the purple is Rios Purple Mystery. And so now that I have the body done, now that I have the color work done, I've separated for the sleeves. I'm thinking I'm going to pick up the sleeves next and do the sleeves before I have the whole body in my lap to have to twist and twirl. Twist and twirl. I can speak this morning. Twist and turn the body of the sweater. I don't think I'm going to do the fitted sleeves as she has in the pattern. I think I'm going to knit them just all down and then probably do a rapid decrease, or I may do a few decreases here just so that I have the correct number to do the pattern work that's at the sleeve right before the ribbing. And then I will have this pattern done. And so this will be my, oh gosh. Actually, I think for Priya, this might be her first. No, I'm sure I made her some baby sweaters. Yeah, I think I made her some baby sweaters. But anyway, unless I'm thinking I made them all for her older sister, Maya, and they probably got handed down. Which could be possible. But I do want to get some of those tags that say this is the back, because in the adult pattern, there was some short row shaping in the back. So it'll be nice for her to be able to distinguish. I mean, you could see here that this front is a little bit lower, but still, for an 8-year-old that dresses herself, it'll be nice just for her to have that little tag there. And so I'm super excited. I'm really, again, this is I can't officially call this my first color work sweater because the other one was, but I do enjoy color work. So I'm looking forward to doing color work sweater for myself. Next up, I have my brother-in-law's socks. Again, this is the same sock pattern as the ones I made my other brother-in-law, Mark. So Mark is the brother-in-law that lives here in Maryland with me, and Eric is the brother-in-law that lives in New York. And I have one sock done. The other sock is almost done. I just need to put in the afterthought heel. Again, I am hoping that these all work out with the measurements that I'm using. I am using a chart that Nancy Wheeler shared on her podcast, Knit Sip Happy. I will put a link to the charts below. I actually printed those charts out So I actually printed those charts out and I put them in my little knitting notebook so that I have them with me wherever I go. And of course, now, there we go. So I have a section in my notebook where I have all the sizes for my family, for their feet. And then here you can see that these are all the men's sizes. And then I have the women's sizes and I have children's sizes. And it tells you, these charts tell you, so the men's shoe size, and then it tells you how long the leg should be for that shoe size. It'll tell you how long the heel flap should be, and then what the total measurement should be from heel to toe. And then it tells you the measurements for how long the toe should be, and then it gives you the total foot length. So that's the chart I was following for all the men in my family. And it'll obviously be the same chart that I follow for all the females in my family. So last up, I have my other niece's sweater. And this is my niece Maya, who will be 14 tomorrow. Her birthday is tomorrow. And she sent me this picture. She asked me if I could knit the sweater. And of course, I'm looking at it very quickly. Top down raglan. Sure, that's easy. Send me the pictures. And then I say to her, what colors do you want them in? She wants them in those colors. So I started analyzing the pattern, and I couldn't tell if this was done in fisherman's rib or if it was done in broken rib. But after me and a couple of my girlfriends, some of my knitting friends, looked at it, we figured it was probably broken rib. And then I noticed all these raglan stitches here. So I had to try and figure that out because I've never done a raglan with more than one row here. And then I started scouring for colors that would sort of match closely. What is up with my words today? So I started with Ankh Green in Rios. Yeah, it's a little blown out. So Ankh Green is the color I chose for the collar. And then I went with Azul Profundo, the darker blue, for the darker blue section. And then I went with Reflecting Pool for the center section. And then Malabrigo Rios actually does come in a white, which is one of the reasons why I picked Rios for this sweater. So I picked white for that. And then the sleeves have this pop of really bright blue down here, and the best I could match was Cyan. I know it's not quite as light, but it was the brightest blue that I could find in Rios. And this sweater was started several times. Because I had no pattern to follow, I didn't know how many to cast on. I've never, aside from this sweater, I have not designed any sweaters, so I didn't know where I was going from there. So at first I found, I think it's like the whatever or the whenever sweater. I will put it down here, the information. It's from Ravelry. if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's a free pattern. And it's more of a recipe of how to create a top-down sweater for yourself. And so what they, actually, I probably shouldn't share it until I figure out, until I can confirm whether it's a top-down, whether it's a, I can speak words, Dorothy, words. I shouldn't share what I was about to share because I can't remember if it was a free pattern or not. But I cast it on according to the number of stitches that I thought would work by that pattern. I had done a gauge swatch using Rios, a different color Rios that I had in my stash, and I did the broken rib for the gauge swatch. I used size 6, 7, and 8 to see which one I liked best. And I washed and I didn't stretch it to block it, but it was wet, and so I, smoothed it out nicely because I'm sure, my niece is not going to be pinning it and stretching it on her own. So I wanted to make sure that I would get a gauge that would come close to the way she is probably going to just, shake it and lay it down to dry if she washes it. So I started with the number of stitches that I came up with from that pattern. And as I got the collar done and I moved on to the next section, I noticed that between the front and the back, you can obviously see there are more rows in the back than there are in the front. And then I started looking more closely, and it looks like the short rows were starting in here. So the short rows would come like maybe 2 stitches in and then go all the way around, 2 stitches in, then go all the way around, 4 stitches, because it's definitely shorter in the center here than it is compared to here. That was fun to try and figure out when you're going back and forth in a broken rib pattern. So I'm doing it, and I didn't like it. It looked too small. So I ripped that out. Started again, cast it on a few more, figured out how many should be for the sleeve, for the front, for the back, and I did 3 stitches because my friends and I were looking at this and we thought that this was a knit purl knit, and then it was that the knit here was increased, so it was knit purl knit knit. So that's how I put my stitch markers in to delineate. And I went around and I got the collar done, and then I got some of the short row shaping done. And it was not looking like this. So I took it out again. And I found another pattern, and I purchased that pattern, but it was done in fisherman's rib. But I thought, close enough, I'll, cast on the number of stitches and go from there. So I did that. And that one casted on, I want to say almost 104 stitches. So I did that. And then I managed to get, and then I reworked in here, and I had 5 stitches. So there was the increased stitch here. So there was an increased stitch and a knit one. And then I put a marker. And then there were 5 stitches here. It was a purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. And then I put a stitch marker. And then the very first one on the sleeve was a knit. And then after that knit stitch was when I did the increase. And I did that one, and I had started, and I'd gotten all the way down to about here. And I was at my girlfriend's house over the weekend, and we were looking at it. We didn't think it looked right. So I took it out again. Melissa suggested that I was doing the broken rib on an 8. And it looked tighter than the way this looked. So I decided I would go up to a 9. And we'll see how that works. So I pulled everything out again. And I did the Italian tubular cast on. And I did that cast on for all the renditions that I had tried, because I really like that cast on at the neck 9. And so I did the Italian tubular cast on, and then I knit 1 by 1 rib for about 1 inch and a size 7, and then I went up to a 9, and I knit 1 whole row in the blue, in the darker blue, just so that when I started purling, you weren't going to get that funky little blip of that greeny blue there. And then I decided, well, how am I going to figure out? Oh, backtrack. I cast it on. I decided to look at other patterns, and I went with the lento. No, I went with the flax. So I cast it on. I looked at the sizes, and my old Maya is a 41 chest. So I decided to cast on for the 43, because after the 43 it would have been 47, and as it was, I was already using a bigger needle. So I decided to stick with the 43, and I used their cast on numbers, and I did the increases that they called for after doing the ribbing, and then I put the stitch markers in at the spots where they said to put it for the shoulders. And then from there, I moved the stitch markers to make the allocations for the 5 that have to be at each of the raglan spaces. And then after I did the first round of knitting, I did 1 round of the knit purl for the broken rib, so that when I started doing the short row shaping, I already had the knit purl pattern in there. So I didn't have to, I would not make the mistake of getting to a wrap and turn point and ending up with like 2 knit stitches or 2 purl stitches back to back. And so I think I have it right now. So here's the front. You can see that there's definitely less spacing here than there is here. And this is the back. And after Melissa and I really looked at the back of this sweater, I noticed that they definitely had 1 more increase in the back than they did in the front. So I did an extra short row just at the back area. So I'm hoping that I finally have it correct. So the only other issue I'm wondering about is when I get to this, obviously yarn over, knit 2 together area. I think I'm going to drop down to a size 8 for those sections, because I have a feeling that stitch is definitely looser and it's going to open up more. And so I don't want it too open. Obviously, she is going to have to wear a tank top or a t-shirt underneath this one. But I don't want that area to be too open where it kind of like does that little bubbling, because it's a little bit wider than the broken rib on the top and the bottom. So I think that's what I'm going to do when I get to that section. And she wants it cropped like this. Mom has already okayed that. And then the sleeves are basically one size all the way down. So that should be easy. There'll be no need to do any sort of sleeve decreases. And obviously, since it ends in the broken rib pattern, I will do some sort of a tubular cast off to match it. And that will be Christmas sweater number 2. Actually, that'll be Christmas sweater number 3 since I've already got one done. So that is it for my Christmas knitting. I'm going to finish the socks for my family and these 2 sweaters, and then I'm done with my family. Yay! So luckily, this coming week, we have, obviously it's Thanksgiving, and at work we have Monday and Tuesday, we have half days. Oops, wrong. Monday and Tuesday we have half days for parent conferences. And even though I don't do parent conferences because I am the media specialist, I still have to remain in the building. So I will bring my knitting with me, and in between maybe doing some training videos to catch up on some things, I'm going to be able to knit. And so I'm really hoping that I will get one of those sweaters done by Thanksgiving, and it's probably going to be the purple one because that's got the most done so far. And then I should get finished with both of those sweaters by the end of November. And then I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pairs of socks I need to finish out of the tubes. Which, if it goes into December, it goes into December. I mean, like I said, I sprained my wrist. I had sciatic. I couldn't knit. I just had to deal. But I'm in better shape than I have been in years past with my Christmas knitting. So now we're going to move on to the acquisitions. I don't have a whole lot, but I do have some yarn I'm going to share from Knit Locally. And so while we were there, I found this gorgeous color. It's Wisco Sock by Utopia, and the colorway is Tapestry. And I thought it was just beautiful. I really, really was considering buying a sweater's quantities worth in this color because my girlfriend Melissa and Kit both thought it was a good color for me. Never really thought orange was my color, but they really liked it. Unfortunately, due to the nature of hand dyeing, none of the other skeins matched this one. Some were very light. Some had much more purple in it, which of course purple doesn't bother me, but it was not this. I even came home and looked on their website. I looked through Ravelry to see, and I just couldn't find any that would even remotely match this. So maybe I'll add this to a fingering weight colorwork sweater or something, but I couldn't put it back. I thought it was just beautiful. And then she had Mad Tosh, not Madeline Tosh, Mad Tosh. And this is Tosh Sock, but it's, doesn't say, yes it does, 100% superwash merino, 395 yards, 395 yards. And this one is called Shroom with a View. And I just thought it was it reminded me of like vintage Christmas colors. So I picked this up. And then lastly, she had some new yarn from Lang Yarns called Cashmere Dreams. Cashmere. And this is 40% cashmere, 35% silk. It's made in Italy. It is, This is a 25-gram skein with 290 meters. So what's that, about 310 yards maybe? So I wanted to try it. I might make a little Sophie scarf with this to see how it works. Or maybe another headband for myself. So I'm going to try that. And then, oh, I forgot. There was one other thing we did over the last 2 weeks. Last week we went to the, no, not last week. Last week? 2 weeks ago we went to the Maryland Alpaca Fiber Festival at the Howard County Fairgrounds. It's the same fairgrounds that hosts Maryland Sheep and Wool. And I bought 2 things there. None of it was yarn. I bought this braid from Yarn Hero. It's 50% Corriedale wool, 25% bamboo, and 25% cotton. Do I spin? No. But my girlfriend Melissa was there, and she does spin. And she said she would spin this up for me. So this is beautiful. I have another, I'm going to have to go get it. There was another skein of yarn that I had purchased, There was another braid that I had purchased at Maryland Sheep and Wool back in May that she spun up for me that I just got. I need to go get that. Hold on. I'm right here. So here is the skein that Melissa spun up for me. This is not gorgeous. I don't remember what the content was. Wool and definitely some sari silk, because that's what all those color pops are from. And it is just so soft. I still have to wash it and thwack it. But she finished this, and she is heading to, she's heading to Iceland for Thanksgiving break. So I didn't want to wait. So I told her, since I know I would soak it, thwack it, wring it out, and hang it and dry, then it would be mine. Yay! So I'm super excited about that. I still have not used the hand spun yarn that my friend Margaret made for me, but I will. I'm thinking I might use, not together, but they're just so, this one definitely is not for a pair of socks, but the one Margaret spun up for me, I think did have some nylon in it and some stellina and could be used in socks, but it's just too pretty. They'll both probably be colorworks in a sweater one of these days. And then the other major thing that I purchased was this basket. Is this not pretty? I bought this from Frogget Yarns, and I saw them when we were at the Frederick Fiber Festival about a month ago. And they had one there that I really, really liked, and I should have bought it when I saw it. I'm not redoing my house, but I am, I guess for lack of better words, Marie Kondoing my house, much like Chelsea from Sunday Knitting Society. And I started this over the summer, which I've already shared with, if you have watched my previous episodes, I've shared some of that with you. But I really wanted a nice size basket, because I'm planning to put it in my living room next to my rocking chair. I have one of those wood rocking chairs that my girlfriends bought me several years ago for Christmas from Cracker Barrel. And I love it. And it's got a nice straight back, which is really good for my back issue. Not that I have back issues, but I never want to have to deal with sciatic again. So the more I sit in a backed chair, then slouching in a couch is always better for me. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I have some Advents to share. And I did an oopsie. So first, the first one that came in was my Freckled Whimsy Advent. And I've not opened these yet. I bought the Serendipity with the 20 Grand Mini. Oh, split. Then the skeins are split into two. So that's going to be one sock. One Christmas Advent knitting sock. And then I didn't realize I had bought the Cozy Knitter one for this year. I thought, silly me, I thought I had missed it. But I did get it, and I did get the mini. So I will be casting on the minis beforehand, because I normally do my socks toe up two at a time. So I'll be casting on the toes. And I will more than likely be knitting maybe 2 stripes a day for these socks, because otherwise the socks will not get done by Christmas. And I don't know if that really matters, since I'm probably going to have these Christmas socks to wear, because I want to get a family feet portrait. I know, I'm strange. But then I missed out, and I don't know how I did this, but I missed out on the Woolens and Nosh Advent sock kit. But I did manage to get their last update. And I'm so upset. I had one of the actual kits in my cart. I had 8 o'clock that night. I was on the website. I got the kit. I had it in my cart. I went to check out. I put in my credit card information, and it was gone. I hate that. If it's in my cart and I'm checking out, someone else should not have had it in their cart. That aggravates me. So I wound up with a second. So a second means it could be, it might have knots in it. It might not be the exact color rotation as the authentic ones, but I got one. And I mainly got it because I love the bag. And so here's the mini that comes with it. These are already caked up, so they're ready to get started. And my understanding is you will knit. So I will cast on my toes, and then I will knit. And my understanding is between each of the color stripes for the Woolens and Nosh, it will come back to this mini skein color. And so when I get to this mini skein color, I know to stop, because the next color is coming up. And somehow I went a little too fast, which turns out to be good for you, because I have a second. So this is going to be a gift for one of you. If the cost is not outrageous, I will attempt to do 2-day service if you are in the States. If you would like it, it will be a gift away. So if you would like, please put a comment below. Use the word seconds somewhere in the comment. It doesn't have to be used in a sentence, but if you use the word seconds, just so I know when I do the random comment picker to look for comments that have the word seconds so that I know you are interested in the gift. And the last thing I have to share is I have one of my advents that came in. This is a new advent for me. I found this company on Instagram. It's Super Glow Yarn Company. And I believe they do a lot of, what am I thinking? Neon colors. My brain is not working today. So I got their advent. I believe it's 24 mini skeins. As you can see, I have not opened it to check, but I think it's just 24 mini skeins. There might be a main skein in there. I don't remember, but this is one. And then the other advent I got was from Yarn Cafe Creations. It has not arrived yet, but I did Dragon Horde last year, and I did was year 6 of Harry Potter, and this year is year 7, the first half of year 7 from Harry Potter. So this year I decided to buy it from Yarn Cafe Creations, and then hopefully I will get next year's from either one of them. So I will have the whole 7th year. I have not used the advent that I had last year yet. I'm waiting. I think I'm going to attempt to put all the Harry colorways into one project. What? I don't know yet. But I am sure something will come to mind at some point. Now I would like to get to future knitting. Hopefully this is what I will be casting on in December and knitting for moi. Turmeric tea actually is not very bad. I wasn't sure how it would taste, but it's not bad. I put a little honey in it. I like honey in my tea. So I have three things I'm toying with casting on as soon as I'm done with the 2 sweaters for my nieces. The first is the Big Love cardigan by Anixtrick. I hope I said that right. I'll put a picture of the pattern here. And oh, I totally forgot something. Back up. When we were at the Alpaca Fiber Festival, and for the life of me, I wish I had written down which vendor I bought this from, but they had these fiber fairies. Is that not the cutest thing? And it was only $10. But I thought that was the cutest thing. I wanted to get like 3 of them, but I scaled it down and I got my favorite one. Of course, I had to get purple hair because usually when I dye my hair, I dye it purple. And I just thought it was so neat. If I could figure out how she made this, I may attempt to make one for my nieces because they are very into fairies. But this is definitely going to go up in my craft room at some point. Big Love by Anixtrick calls for a chunky yarn, and I have had this in my stash forever. I have a bag. I have 2 bags, so I have 20 skeins, which should be more than enough. And this is, so it's Uruguay Chunky. It's the Queensland's collection, made in Peru. These are, hello. I know it says it's somewhere in here. Do I really have to open it up? I guess so. So it is 70% merino, 20% alpaca, and 10% silk. And it's 73 yards in one of these little hanks. So 10, I have 730 yards, so I have 1,400 yards, more than enough to make the big love cardigan. And I'm guessing knitting on a size 10 or 11, I can't remember. That would probably be a quick knit in December. So that's a possibility. One I'm definitely thinking of casting on is the Stockholm Slipover by Petite Knits. It's going to be hopefully my Christmas vest. And again, pulling out for my stash, trying to use that stash. I bought this years ago from Bijou Bison. It was a kit for a shawl, but I never made the shawl. And this is their Shangri-La base, which is 50% yak and 50% mulberry silk. See that? It's 50% yak, 50% mulberry silk. This is more the color back here. And I have some Ella Ray Sequencicity. Sequencicity in this red colorway. Not an exact match, but I don't care. They'll mold together. They'll be pretty. Or I have this 100% bamboo. It's definitely a brighter red. Would definitely match this better. So I haven't decided. I may wind up doing a swatch with both and see which one I like better. What I don't have is a mohair or an alpaca, a Surrey alpaca to go with it. What I found in my stash was I have this like burgundy-ish color kid silk haze, which I think, well, which would go, it's still being blown out, which would go with this one. So I may wind up doing a swatch with these three to see what happens. Because I don't really want this bright red, but I do love this color red. It's more of a blue red. So if I don't like the way this kid silk haze works, then I may pull out some Surrey alpaca that I have in my stash, in my undyed stash, that is, and dye it up to a red that would hopefully come close to one of these. And I'm hoping that will definitely be casted on in December, because I really would love to try and get that finished so that I have a Christmas sweater this year. And then lastly, there is a informal, I guess that's the best way to put it, an informal knit along happening in my knitting group, the Columbia Sip and Knit, where two of the girls in the group started or have finished knitting the Pure Comfort cardigan, which happens to be a free pattern for those of you that might be interested. It's by Andrea Yetman, and you can't get the pattern off of Ravelry, but from Ravelry it will link to the website where you can download it for free. And in my stash, again, stash diving, I have, it's either 8 or 9 skeins of this Arroyo in Jupiter that I purchased when the Mannings was going out of business. And for those of you that don't know, the Mannings was a fabulous shop in, is it Berlin, East Berlin, Pennsylvania? think it's East Berlin, Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, they closed a number of years ago, but they were a fabulous place where they had all kinds of yarns, weaving supplies, spinning wheels, looms, floor looms, table looms, rigid heddle looms. They used to teach classes in spinning, in knitting, in weaving. Tom Kinsley, that's where he worked. For those of you that are weavers and spinners, that's where Tom Kinsley used to work. And now him and his daughter, Rebecca, they both used to work at the Mannings. They now own and run Redstone Glen. It's a little, well, for me, it's a little further away. So I have not been to it yet since they opened. But they are now running the spinning and weaving classes. I don't know if they do knitting. I'm sure they do. And one of these days I would love to take a class with them, but unfortunately most of their classes are during the week, so I would have to try and catch a summer class, which is not easy to do because everybody's looking for a summer class because other people work as well. But anyway, so this is what I think I'm going to knit the Pure Comfort cardigan out of. But this knit along, a couple of other people started, so we turned it into an official knit along in our Facebook group, and that ends, I think I had it ending February 1st. So we'll see. But I have the yarn, and it was from my stash. And the more I can knit from my stash, the happier I am. And that is all I have for you in regards to knitting related items. So if you are here just for the knitting, thank you. Thank you so much. I love you guys. If you have enjoyed the knitting content, please give it a like. Give this video a like. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell to get notified for when my next video goes up. If you would like to enter the gift away for the Woolens and Nosh seconds for 24 striped Advent socks, it's on their Tarhi nylon base, 90% Tarhi wool, 10% nylon. Their self-striping skeins, 411 yards, and their mini skein is 82 yards. The skeins are separated. They are already caked up. So the kit is just ready to go. Just remember to put seconds somewhere in your comments. For those of you that are looking for some book suggestions, I will share with you what I have read in the last couple of weeks. Now, because I did not do what I was reading in my last episode on blankets, the list is a little bit longer, but they were all great books. So the first two are actually The Black Witch and the Iron Flower by Laurie Forrest, and they are both under the Black Witch series. It's a YA book. It's about a young girl who has powers. It's obviously fantasy related. There are different sects in this world, and they are at war with each other, and the Black Witch is a Gardnerian. The original Black Witch is part of the Gardnerian sect, and she was, hailed as all powerful. And then her granddaughter, Alyssa, apparently looks just like her. Her powers have been not necessarily hidden, but there was a block so that when she was tested, they did not know how powerful she was because her parents died and her uncle took care of her, and he did not he did not want the Gardnerians to take advantage of her powers. So he never had her officially wand tested. He wand tested her himself and kept it a secret as to how powerful she was. Very good story. Next up is Echo of Old Books by Barbara Davis. This was an interesting take. I have no idea if this is true or not, but the premise of this book is the main character has the ability, she owns a bookshop, and she has the ability that when she touches a book that has been read previously, that she can get feelings of what the person that was reading the book was going through or writing the book. And so this comes to play where a book is, she's the owner of a used bookstore. A book gets donated to the shop, and there's it's bound, it's a hardcover book, and there's no straight author, there's no information on the book. It looks like it was somebody had written it, and it was bound and given as a gift. It didn't even go through a publisher, but she doesn't realize that until she starts to research the book. And then she comes across and she finds out that there's a second book that is sort of an answer to the first book, and it plays out in a love story. And it turns out that the person that wrote the first book and the person that wrote the second book were in a love match, but they both thought that they were wrong, that the other person had wronged them. So it was a very interesting read. Next up, I have Girl Forgotten by April Henry. Again, another YA book, and this teenager is in a new school, and she has to come up with a senior project, and she decides that her senior project is going to be a podcast about a girl that was killed in this town 20 years ago, and the crime was never solved. Very good. Next up is The Librarian of Burned Books by Brianna Labuskes, I think. Takes place during World War II, and it goes back and forth between the 1930s, like the beginning of the war, 1938, 39, to the 1940s, the early 40s, to today. And it was very well done. So you've got some portions that are happening in Berlin, some portions that are happening in Paris, and some portions that are happening in like New York City area. And it follows how at the beginning, before World War II happens, but when Nazi Germany when Hitler was starting to come into power, there apparently, I have not researched this on my own, so I don't know how true this is, but in the book, the Germans of the Nazi Party had a program where they were hosting prominent people from the United States, actors, artists, writers, to come to Germany and spend 6 weeks in Germany. And basically this was the Hitler's Germans were trying to show these people the better side of what they were doing, and trying to flesh out and see if they could get Americans, so that when these people went back to America, that they could share, all these wonderful things that Hitler was doing for their country and stuff. And it follows the life of two women, one who was German and one who was a budding author that, just had a smashing bestseller in the States and was over in Germany, and how she basically becomes aware of what's really going on. So if you like historical fiction, that was a great one too. If you like mysteries, One by One by Ruth Ware. I love Ruth Ware. was a great book. And this one basically, people were being killed off one by one. And I don't remember what the setting was now. I've read so many books lately. Oh my gosh. But anyway, One by One by Ruth Ware. I've read a number of Ruth Ware books. It's never what you expect. I love her writing, and I always get frustrated because I think I know who it is, and it's never that person. Next up, we have The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner. She is the same author who wrote The Lost Apothecary, which I just loved. The London Seance Society is a whole different twist in that this takes place in old-time England, where the idea of seances and ghosts was really becoming a budding predominant culture. And again, that the London Seance Society was a male-run organization. And they had a lot of those in England and in that time period. And still today, there are still some completely male societies like that. And it takes place because the plot is that there is a female who does seances, who does have an actual gift for seances, and she thought that the person that was running the London Seance Society was a good friend. He winds up being murdered, and so basically the next person in line contacts her, asks her to come back to try to do a seance to find out how he was killed, and all this backstory and all this deviousness of what's been going on starts to come to light. And then I have a few horror books, not necessarily horror, but definitely, it was October, it was Halloween season. The Last House on Needless Street by Katrina Ward. Very interesting concept. It was not written to be a horror story. It was actually written to bring light to people who have multiple personalities and why these personalities come up, or how they are developed under basically extreme conditions. And the main character in this book, as you start reading the book, find out he was abused by his mother, and he comes up with these different personalities that help him go through this. And it was really, really well done. Very, very well done. And you don't find out till the very end just how many personalities the main character had. It was very well written. Then I read Horrid by Katrina Leno. It's definitely a YA novel. It was very strange. So a mother and her daughter were living on the West Coast somewhere. I don't remember where. And the father had just passed away. And the mother's mother, and they were living on their own for a while. And then the mother's mother, who was living on the East Coast, passed away and left, the house that she grew up in to her daughter. And so they wound up, because the father was not good money management wise and stuff, they wound up having to leave their home and move into the house that the mother inherited. And then this is when the ghost stories start picking up, and where the daughter starts to become a sleuth to find out what's happening. And the ending was, I'll leave it up to you to decide if you want to read it. And then there was You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kaylin Bayron. which takes place almost like a what oh God, what am I thinking of? Kind of like a Friday the 13th, but not exactly. It's, you know, it's a camp. Supposedly there were murders in these camps years ago. Some guy bought the land, turns it into another camp where they run through, like, it's a horror adventure type camp. So you pay, you get a group together, you pay to go to this overnight camp, and you're paying to get scared, to be like a participant in like a horror scenario that they pick and choose from for each different group. And you come to find out that the actual horrors that happened years ago did really happen. It wasn't just a rumor, and the kids that were running the camp start to really investigate it and what happens. So that's it for what I have been reading. I'm currently in the middle of The It Girl by Ruth Ware. I'm in the middle of The Never King by Nikki St. Croix. The Never King is a spin-off of Peter Pan, where Peter Pan is now grown up. I'm not crazy about it, so it may wind up getting dropped. I don't know. And I'm in the middle of the second Hawthorne Legacy series book, which is pretty good, but it all takes place, if you haven't read the first one, The Inheritance Game, and I didn't write down who it's from, but I'm on the second series of that book. I read The Inheritance Game a while ago. But anyway, that is all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed my reading list. I certainly enjoyed those books that I've read. If you have a suggestion for a book, I would love to hear it. You can put it in the comments below. I am definitely an eclectic reader. I most certainly do like, I think fantasy and horror are definitely my most loved genres. Next up would definitely be historical fiction. Very interested in reading BIPOC readers. And I do love YA because I'm a high school media specialist, so any YA books that I can read and then recommend to my kids, even better. So, without further ado, Thanksgiving is coming up. So, I hope you spend time with your family. I hope you spend time remembering all the things that you are thankful for. I hope you have time off to spend with your family or your friends, your loved ones. I hope you enjoy whatever crafting that you get to do during the holidays. And thank you so much for spending your time with me. Again, if you have enjoyed the content, please give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so you can get notified when I post another video. It really does help get my YouTube channel out there and recommend it to others. If you want to put your hat in the ring for the Second Chance Woolens and Nosh Advent Socks kit, please remember to put seconds somewhere in your comments. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Ciao, ciao.